My name is Palma Accardi, and you're watching Tidal Flooding Talk, brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition.
And I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon at 7 p.m. Tuesday night, and that means, it's time to talk tidal flooding live from the Irish Pub in Atlantic City, where you're invited to come on down every Tuesday night. We always have a different guest to talk tidal flooding with Palma and myself, all brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, 501c3, meant to raise awareness and really, preach resiliency about living along the shore. We've been focused a lot on the ocean, but we have a different perspective for you tonight. Our guest, Mayor Bob Campbell from Downe Township. Mayor, appreciate you being here.
It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
And we were talking off camera, and I'm going to give Palma the first question. She always gets the first question, but I'm really excited for tonight's show because, we talk about the ocean all the time, and, most of the focus is on the ocean because that's where most of the visitors are and most of the residents are. It's probably, 90-something% or something like that. But there are so many charming historical towns along Delaware Bay. And I was talking with the mayor, and I've kind of visited a lot of them. And, there's just so much history there, and people have called it home for generations, and they're impacted by tidal flooding too. So I'm really interested to hear the mayor's perspective on that. And with that, Palma, fire away.
Well, as the mayor of your community of Downe Township, what are some of the ways that you've dealt with flooding?
There hasn't been a lot of planning for flooding along the bay shore. There certainly has been a lot more along the ocean side. And the only time we've actually done planning for flooding is when we've had a forecast disaster. When Hurricane Irene came through, we had a nice advance notice. It was almost 8 or 10 days when we were warned that this hurricane was coming. And for me, all of a sudden, we have to kick in to prevent the tidal flooding. So we did the sandbags, we did these concrete walls. I mean, we went into action and we put all types of hard structures along the bayfront in order to protect us from the storm. And that's the only kind of planning. It's like immediate emergency planning. I mean, we don't have a big tidal flooding plan in place now. We're working, of course, with the coalition to help plan for the future. Sandy was a little different. We had, they waited, Christie waited and waited and waited, and it was a last minute notice to prepare for the storm. So we weren't quite as prepared for Sandy as we were for Irene. We did have extensive damage. And again, you mentioned it earlier, it's all about the ocean side.
Right.
And I guess you remember when they talked about the ocean side preparing for the storm and the bay side. Once the storm was passed, the ocean side got all the money. The 9 counties, you heard about the 9 counties? Well, we didn't get anything.
What do we got? Atlantic, Cape May,
everybody
Ocean,
up the whole
Monmouth,
ocean
Middlesex,
coastfront.
all the ocean front, and
Ocean
Cumberland
front.
and Salem are often left out. Why don't you tell us, Downe Township? I mean, it's not as, roll off the tip of your tongue as Atlantic City or Ocean City.
No.
Tell us a little bit about Downe Township and some of your coastal communities that are impacted.
Well, Cumberland County has 40 miles of bayfront. The entire bayshore, I consider, from Elsonboro to Cape May Point, is about 93 miles. We have 40 miles. And Downe Township has 3 villages on the bayfront. We have Fortescue, Gandy's Beach, and Money Island.
And Fortescue is probably the big one, right? Or the one more people know and visit. And I don't want to say the most populous one as well. Right?
It is. It has a state marina, and it's always been referred to as the weak fish capital of the world. There hasn't been any weak fish in the bay in a long time, but we still call it the weak fish capital of the world. Money Island has a lot of potential. I'm sorry, not Money Island. Fortescue has a lot of potential. We're going to have the first sewer package treatment plant on the Delaware Bay in Fortescue by the end of next year. It's been a long process. It was initiated by the hurricanes, and that's another long story. But Money Island and Gandy's Beach Gandy's Beach is like the upscale community, the more expensive homes. And of course, Money Island is the main oyster port on the North Bay. So that gets the least attention. That gets the most harassment from the NJDEP. Goes to Money Island. They're kind of supporting us in Fortescue and Gandy's Beach.
Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but of
No.
course you'd like all 3, right? Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's nice to have support for
If it
all
wasn't
3
for the
towns.
oyster industry, they would have jumped all over Money Island.
Right.
Downe Township itself is interesting. We went from 1,500 residents about 5 years ago, and we're down to 1,200 residents, is all in a 54 square mile township.
Wow.
Our township is just under 90% tax exempt open space, and it's 54 square miles. It's a big township, but it's almost all tax exempt, protected land now, which is killing me as a mayor. That's my paycheck.
Right.
You know,
And it's tough to tidal flooding plan then,
No.
without the tax base, right?
No. On the tidal flooding side, we have, again, we're working with the coalition. We're developing our CRS program. On the flooding side, we can't. When you don't have politics and votes and you don't have money, you can't get too much done. But we've screamed loud and long. We just got a bulkhead on the north end to prevent tidal flooding on the Gandy's Beach. We've got a new dunes on Fortescue. We have a bulkhead, 2,400 foot long bulkhead that's proposed for the south end of Fortescue. But again, it's the politics of it all. You can't get things done to protect your island when you don't have the politics and the money. Now, saying that, for me, I grew up in Camden County. I moved down here 35 years ago, Downe Township, and I've been the mayor for almost 10 years. The problem that we have, and I don't want to get into climate change and sea level rise and all that, but we have flooding and we're losing our meadows. But it's more, to me, a lack of maintenance and building protection and maintaining what we've had through the years. Like on the ocean side, you guys have bulkheads and beaches and dunes, and I mean, you guys got it all going on the ocean side. So you don't have the problems that we have. If you have erosion, you fix it. On the Bay Shore, if we have erosion, they don't care. We come under the Army Corps' jurisdiction, as the ocean side does, but they don't want to spend the money. They don't want to spend the money on 1,500 people, and Bayshore towns that just don't count. We don't get our fair share. You've heard that statement probably. And I'm not talking just my township, Cumberland County. We get nothing. We're at the bottom of the list for all. We're at the bottom of the list for all the bad things that you can have in your municipality. In the state of New Jersey, we're at the bottom on everything. So, as far as preparing for the storms, we're doing the best we can. We've got beach plans. We're working on a beach restoration project with Army Corps and DEP. It's about a $20 million project. We're working on a shore plant. We just did we have a beach project for Gandy's Beach. Money Island, the politicians don't want to talk about it. I need to talk about it. The oyster industry brings in about $40 million in direct oyster money to the Bay Shore, and there's another $200 million in related businesses to the oyster industry. It's a big deal.
You got to tell them the name, Money Island. Hey,
Yeah.
there's some money to be had there, and then the help will come.
It
Right?
should be called No Money Island. So there's a lot of exciting things going on in the Bay now because we've been hammering them for a long time. I was disheartened to see that there's another FEMA program that was announced at the last Coastal Coalition meeting. And the first thing out of it was from the DEP, and I forget his name, Rob Shores, the DEP spokesman. But anyway, he announced this great program for planning, for tidal flooding.
I know exactly where you're going with this. Napa,
money-
New Jersey comes up. The counties included.
The money's available for the 9 oceanfront counties and not Cumberland again. So, we have a tough job. We have to keep beating them up there in Trenton. I spend a lot of time up in Trenton. We have 14 municipalities in Cumberland, and we're the only one that's involved, that's interested in being involved in the Bayshore stuff. We've got Maurice River Township, Commercial Township, Lawrence Township, and I can't get them motivated. Stoke Creek, yeah.
Okay.
And I just can't get them motivated to come to Tom's meetings. Maybe it's Tom, who knows?
Now, before Superstorm Sandy, you were also a zoning official in your community?
I was the zoning official up until way before Superstorm Sandy. I was a zoning official up to about the year 2008.
Did you see a lot of flood mitigation stuff then, or was it more limited?
There was no discussion. There was no discussion about flood mitigation back in those days. Before Irene, nobody talked about it. And you have to understand too, the Bayshore communities, they have either 3 or 5 people on their council, appointed mayors. They all have jobs. They show up once a month and they pay the bills and they go away. And they don't pay attention. They don't go to meetings like Tom, the Coastal Coalition meeting. They're kind of just throwing their hands up and saying, "Hey, que sera, sera. Whatever happens, happens."
How do you think? Like, what can be the motivation to, I mean, the Coastal Coalition is basically, something that's free to join. It's, absolutely, a non-profit charitable organization that's working to help all these towns. So really, you should have 100% participation from the corner of Salem County all the way up to Sandy Hook in North Jersey. Just like when I say, you're in a hurricane, we should have 100% evacuation. It never happens, and you don't have 100% participation. So what can you say to other Bayshore mayors saying, as the only Bayshore mayor in the Coastal Coalition, what are the benefits and what's the sales pitch to them to say, hey, come on, I mean, there's no harm in talking and sharing ideas and joining.
I've tried to create a county mayors organization. We've got maybe 4 active mayors out of 14. Mayor Kelly from Bridgeton, Patty Gross from Reese River Township. She's very active. She's a real good mayor. And we have Skip Bowman, who comes out to some things from Lawrence. But I'm there 24/7. The only reason I'm getting anything done is because I'm relentless. I just don't take no for an answer, and I keep it going. The thing that's even more important to me for the other towns on the Bayshore to get involved in, is the CRS program. And because there's no skin in the game for the township. What is the township going to get? The township's not going to get anything. Your residents are going to benefit. They're going to get lower premiums. It's going to be a great deal for them. That's why we're doing it. We're doing it for the people, not for the township. So it's difficult to get them involved. They just think that the problems are just going to go away. And I keep telling them, I say, look, the world is moving in on you. The DEP, the state government, the Blue Acres, the Green Acres, all that stuff is closing in on all the towns. Greenwich Township, you've been to Greenwich. Yep. Beautiful town. Yep. I love Greenwich. I almost moved to Greenwich 35 years ago. But it's politics. They have some serious problems. They have dike problems. They have serious flooding problems. The dikes are failing. The Army Corps is supposed to help them. I've been listening to this for 15 years about the problems in Greenwich. And as the politics change, they have a 3-man council. As the politics change, the conversation gets lost every time the politics change, which is every year. So nothing's happened. I think the county helped them a little bit, but they are in real serious trouble in Greenwich Township. The Maurice River Township, the mouth of the Maurice River, I don't know if you've heard about that, but all the meadows that used to define the channel all the way up into all the marinas up above in the river, it's all gone. There's no protection. If we get another Sandy up the bay and it comes right up the mouth of the Maurice River, all those marinas are done. They're finished. And we've been talking to the Army Corps. There's a gentleman down there, Ben Stoneman, who was passionate about the project, but he just, he's up against it because you need the Army Corps, the DEP, you need all the players in place. You're talking about $10, $20, $30 million to fix that and protect the mouth of the Maurice River. It's a huge project. These are all Bayshore issues. East Point Lighthouse. Yep. You been there?
I have.
Did you notice
several times?
Did you notice that the water laps at the steps of the building? Now, DEP went in there after tons of screaming and hollering, and they put some sand berms in there. And I think they're still there, but we haven't had a storm. And if we get a storm, a big storm, sand berms are gone, and the building, which they just spent $1 million, the freeholders got $1 million, and they restored that building. It's fabulous.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of history. I think, especially along Delaware Bay, you have so many instances, all those things you just said, and the abandoned towns like Seabreeze and the older ones like Thompson's Beach, saying, all right, if you don't mitigate, if you don't act now, that's going to be your fate. So you kind of have this living example saying, all right, we can either, we can either give up and raise a white flag, or you can work 24/7 like you're doing to try to, change with the times and make it livable along the Bay Shore.
A few years back when I first started getting very vocal and active in this, the environmentalists came after me. We don't want development along the bay. We need to move off the bay. ALS was a big one, American Little Society. You got to move out and go live in a high-rise in Millville. You don't need to be there. And but because we're 90% tax-exempt open space, we're the stewards of all this space. When the bird watchers come, if they have a heart attack, we got to send an ambulance to get them. If the road gets a pothole, we got to fix it. So they've come around, and ALS and Nature Conservancy and some of the other organizations, we've become partners. We've developed a partnership so we can all work together to have this wonderful environment that you just were talking about. It's fabulous. And but it's got to be a big partnership, and the state of New Jersey has to jump in and help us out. The funds aren't available to maintain all the stuff that we have to maintain, and our tax base is a disaster. Right. It's a disaster. But we're not giving up. We have you might see it when you drive through our town. It says, "Save the Bay Shore, no retreat." It's a big blue sign. That's us.
That's the motto.
Save the Bay Shore, no retreat.
Now, in terms of flooding, do you think getting the information out there for your residents is one of your challenges?
With the CRS program, getting the information out, I mean, we can send notices. We can even have classes. If somebody wants to do a little seminar or class for the residents, I'll set up at the township. They can come and give it. But the problem is the people. You've heard the expression, you can lead a horse to water. The CRS program is a perfect example. We need the people to give us some information. We need some elevation certificates. We need this stuff. They don't care. It's really like you got to drag everything out of it. I have an environmental commission that me and my councilman set up 2 years ago. We can't get, and we want to do our green team stuff and all that you hear about. I can't get any volunteers. 0 volunteers for my green team and my environmental commission. It's really tough to get people motivated, especially in a little town like ours where, it's we are the poorest per capita income township in the entire state. 565 municipalities, we are the poorest.
It's not a list you want to be at the bottom of, right? No.
So,
and you're right. Motivation, therefore, is
they're all
challenging.
They're surviving. These
Right.
people are just surviving, and they don't really care about flood mitigation. And there's all the FEMA programs, which FEMA was a disaster after Sandy. That was one of the biggest disasters that we covered was FEMA. But they had all these programs for people to elevate their houses. They pay $30,000, $50,000. They pay 100% to raise your house, especially people on the beach. No money out of your pocket.
Right.
I think one did it. One. And I had meetings. We had the DEP down. We had the FEMA people in. We said, come to a meeting. We're going to tell you how you can get your house raised for free.
And I think that really just kind of is a great illustration of getting the word out, the communication. And, we can preach, but people have to act. And acting doesn't always necessarily involve money. I mean, sometimes it does.
No.
All right. I mean, we had Tom Heist on, and, buying flood insurance is money. Some raising houses, often money. But it's not always. I mean, there's flood mitigation you can do, that the government partially or fully subsidizes.
We're working with Nicole in our office, and Nicole and April is helping, and to get the word out for the CRS program to people. And we sent out notices and letters, and Jim Rotala, Jim, he's helping us with the process. So we're getting the word out to the people about flood mitigation and preparing for flood events. But it's not easy. You got to drag these people.
Well, I think that is one of our main goals. Tidal Flooding Talk and the New Jersey Coastal Coalition is providing the information to the public. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We don't cost anybody any money, but it is important for people to be listening.
And I think you offer the unique perspective. I mean, because you are the only, we have so many ocean representatives, and that's where the people is, that's where the money goes, that's where the tourist dollars go. But as you've spent the last 20 minutes talking about, I mean, the Bayshore is unique, is historic, is kind of like a hidden gem. I mean, there's so much there. Maybe not sandy beaches that and hotels and so on. I mean, I know there are hotels and sandy beaches, but the natural part of it, the fishing, the bird watching. I mean, there's so much there that the bay has to be preserved as well, and you have to fight for that because we've seen Mother Nature. If you don't fight her, she's going to win.
Absolutely, and the infrastructure is the key to maintaining this and making our tidal flooding awareness and preparation. Infrastructure is important, and we have we're trying to get, if we get sewer down there and we get our beaches done and we get Comcast to put cable out there and we get South Jersey Gas to put gas in. Once you have the infrastructure, then you have people who come in and be interested in what we're doing as far as flood mitigation and all that. But for now, the people live there. I've got a dozen people that live on the bayfront, right on the beach, in old beach shacks that are 200 years old. And they're living on $1,000 a month Social Security. That's it. That's what they're living on now. I don't know how they do it. It's magic how they do it, because your car and your electric and all that property taxes. So they're just getting by. And when I want to talk to them about flood mitigation and CRS program, they don't care. They're just barely getting by. They don't care if it's free. They're just doing what they need to do to survive. So we try to educate them. It's taken me a while to convince all the people in Fortescue that they need to have public sewer so they can flush their toilets, because the county health department in Cumberland are evil. They're the axis of evil, I refer to them. And I hope everybody hears me say that, because it's true. And public sewer makes that go away. So there's a lot of issues on the Bayshore, and I things have to happen. Like Fortescue has to get its infrastructure and develop, get our bulkheads, get our flood mitigation. We have the first weather station on the beach in Fortescue, on the Bayshore, and hopefully we'll have the first live camera feed on the beach in Fortescue.
Hope so. I think they're valuable too.
I
mean, the more cameras you have to monitor this stuff, I think live camera feeds with the technology available today, we use them for weather all the time, but they can absolutely be a extremely valuable resource, for monitoring flooding. And hopefully we see a whole network of them someday, and if the coalition can do anything about that, we'll be on that as well.
Well, as far as the flood mitigation and the planning and all that, anybody's listening that is interested, get in touch with me through my office. Come visit us. If you have some ideas, if you want to help, volunteer, whatever you want to do. I'm in town most of the time. And
when you're not in Trenton.
When I'm not in Trenton. I'll be in Trenton on Thursday.
How is the ride from Downe Township to Trenton?
If there's no traffic, it's an hour and 20 minutes,
okay.
which is
That's
not
bad.
bad.
That's not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
But it's been a great challenge. I've loved every minute of it, and I like to help people. It's one of my partner says it's my character flaw, but I like helping people because I like helping everybody except her. And but I do. That's my joy. So, what else you got? Throw something else. Stump me. Come on.
Well, is there anything you want to tell your residents that they can do to prepare when we know there's a coastal flooding event headed our way?
And like you mentioned, hurricanes, 7 days warning, nor'easters, 2 days warning. It's not like, actually, I think last year, wasn't there like a water spout or a tornado around Fortescue?
Yes.
Wasn't there last month? There you have no warning. But these big tidal flooding events that Palma mentioned, you have warnings. So, what can Bayshore residents do? I mean, I know a lot of the infrastructure is not there yet, but what steps can be taken?
We did a mandatory evacuation for Sandy, which isn't mandatory anyway. And we had people stay.
Yep.
And we got the call in the middle of the storm when the waves were 20 feet on the bay, and we had to send. You had this monster, gigantic military machine. We sent out to get these people that wouldn't leave.
And of course, 100% are going to evacuate next time, right?
No.
Never happened.
Never have.
Dream.
But the people know most of the normal people, when we say evacuate, they evacuate, and we take care of them after Sandy. We secured the islands to make sure nobody pillaged their homes. But there's not much for them to do except to evacuate. They can prepare for small storms with their flashlights and their food and water, but it's up to us. When there's a storm announced that's coming, it's up to us, the committee, and myself, to make it happen, to protect their homes and the beaches and the roads and all that stuff. So it would be a lot easier if we had maintained our bayshore for the past 50 years the way the oceanfront was maintained.
Right.
And
I mean, if that was the case, some of those towns that aren't there anymore could still be there,
and
then the towns that are still there would be more or better equipped to, go forward in the future, right?
Absolutely, and people talk about sea level rise and all that stuff, and for me, the problem for us on the bayshore is erosion and lack of maintenance. When you don't fix things that break, like Greenwich is a good example. They had dikes that were 100 years old from the salt hay farms, and they got in a political battle years ago, and they stopped maintaining the dikes, and now they failed. But if they had maintained them, they'd be in good shape. They wouldn't be flooding the way they are today. And there are other issues. PSE&G didn't help the bayshore. They did not help the bayshore, and they took all the salt hay dikes out. That's another story for another day.
One person, Sharon, wants to repeat the information about the coalition, where to get more information on the New Jersey Coastal Coalition.
We do have a website, njcoastalcoalition.com. We also have a Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube account.
Yep, so trying to be all wired in. And of course, these Tidal Flooding Talks emanate from the Irish Pub, 7 o'clock every Tuesday evening, different guests. Mayor, you've been wonderful. And again, I told you, I took the tour. I love the charm of Delaware Bay. I grew up in a small little bay town in New England, and it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. The fishing villages up there, and it's I think it's eye-opening because the ocean gets so much attention. It's nice to kind of learn a little bit about the bay, the unique challenges, and thank you for sharing your perspective.
It's a different world, a different lifestyle in the bay. And in spite of what people say, we don't have greenheads.
Are they limited to the beach only?
That was a joke. We have lots of greenheads.
Yeah.
And you are a member of the coalition as well, and we do want to say thank you for joining us this evening
pleasure.
with an Irish Pub t-shirt.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I've had a great time since Tom got me involved in this. It's been educational. I belong to a lot of organizations that waste a lot of time with a lot of this and no action, but you guys got a lot of good things.
Well, Tom doesn't waste any time. He may do a lot of this.
Oh, he
doesn't waste any time. I mean, all the time is well spent.
He does do a lot of that. Yes. It's all good.
All right.
It's all good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again for joining us.
All right, next week, I will be in Florida, where there is tidal flooding sometimes as well. Palma will be here at the Irish Pub. Our guest. Is that confirmed yet? It's not confirmed yet. All right. I thought it may have been confirmed. So, all right. But we always have a great guest here, Mayor. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Anytime you want me back, call me.
All right. Thank you for joining us.